the first Patriots post-game show of the season. Wish we had some happier news to report, but we don't. So we're going to talk about what happened as the Patriots lose 20-7. A lot of things to chop up. Some interesting drama involving one of the Patriots receivers who was, we got a Malcolm Butler 2.0 situation coming up here. You have an injury to Mac Jones. That's not a great thing. And just weird vibes surrounding the team right now. So again, Mike Kadlick, Ryan Spagnoli, John Zannis, we all covered training camp at various points in time. Every one of us saw a lot of the things that were going on. And again, there's a whole, it's just preseason, don't put too much stock in it, but the alarm bells, and so there's nothing unique about what the three of us will say about this particular, what's been going on. Basically, that's just what was being reported on by everyone. Offense looked out of sync. Offensive line was a bit of a mess. A lot of concern with what's going on with the coaching staff. Nothing today made you feel any better about that. Doesn't mean it's going to be this way forever, but this was, I'm not going to say the worst possible nightmare scenario, but it definitely was you just were hoping it would be a little better than this. And the opening drive, to the Patriots' credit, they came out and it actually looked like it could work. But let's just take a global view before we start to dissect everything. Ryan, I'll start with you. Just your general thoughts on this game, especially relative to, some of the expectations we had for this team coming off the preseason that they had.
Yeah, I think it matched all the expectations we had seen, right? I think, like you said, the first drive, it looked really well. They clean pocket for Mac to work with. They schemed it up really nice. They certainly came out much better and faster than we were used to even last year. And I thought, John, we were texting. I thought that was pass interference, but I guess they set the standard pretty early. I think there was a couple calls after that both ways that they let go, right? They were going to let them play. But after that, I mean, that was kind of a deflator for them offensively. I don't remember them getting past the 50-yard line after that. And like you said, I think it's everything we saw in the preseason come into effect today, right? The lack of protection for Mac Jones didn't seem like any separation down the field. They couldn't cover anybody, right? Their biggest concerns were Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And I think overall, their defense played pretty well, right? I mean, you went into that game thinking if we can hold Miami to 20 points, they gave up one explosive play, that touchdown to Jalen Waddle at the end of the half, which was a backbreaker for them. I think that was really the turning point in the game. But other than that, as a whole, obviously you lose Adrian Phillips early on in that game. That's somebody that, keep a close eye on, very important piece of their defense. But overall, defensively, I didn't have much of an issue there. I think
it's not.
Is big their problems.
It's not that. It's it's all about
the defense isn't the focus. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not because absolutely defense had some moments you felt okay. I mean, I'll say this, if I'm the Dolphins, yeah, you feel good beating the Patriots. You feel good doing so in convincing fashion. But I'm watching that game and I'm watching Tua and I'm thinking, oh, man, he
still stinks.
Because your ceiling is what it is as long as Tua is the quarterback. And it's really evident. I mean, I don't mean to disparage Mac. We know Mac doesn't have the biggest, arm out there, but it really was the noodle arm bowl today. Tua bounced some passes where you're like, oh, were you trying to get it all the way there? It really looked, and it wasn't he fired it low. It just looked like he just lacked the arm strength to get it where
it looked like there was no one even there. And that's why I kind of hate the whole, the defense wasn't that bad, because yeah, sure, they were fine, but they also let Tua kind of look like a competent quarterback at times, and he's just not that.
And he stinks.
He stinks. And he even tried to give them some, and they didn't take advantage of it.
Super limited too, right? Yeah. I think that's just the best way to describe him, is super limited.
Mm-hmm. Super limited. And every time they get him in play action and he kind of, and he has to drop back and he's throwing off that back foot, he just looks he gets nothing on those throws.
And he looks very uncomfortable throwing the ball.
When he doesn't have time to set his feet and kind of let her rip, he looks really, really, really uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But I mean, this isn't the Tua show. It's the Pats show. And we're talking about Mac and how Mac looked. And we'll get to the injury later. We don't really know. Full extent, it sounds like Mac had a back injury. We don't really know when it happened. He went for x-rays, didn't talk to the media. Reports afterwards that that the x-rays were negative, according to Tom Pelissaro. So, hopefully not a big deal, whatever it was that happened to him, but it was enough that he was drawing a lot of attention post-game, and he wasn't able to talk to the media. So whatever it was he was dealing with, we'll see how that plays out. But let's just assess his performance. And again, it's always going to come down to, in a lot of cases, you're really not going to know until you can look at things and look at some film and dissect things a little bit better. What's he seeing out there? Were people open? Were they not open? Was it the pressure? Could he have gotten rid of it quicker? There were times at camp where Mac was seeing ghosts, so to speak. In this case, it looked like it didn't look like anybody was super open. The biggest concern with Mac was the lollipops he was throwing out there.
Yeah.
There were times where he needed to, and that's what you don't know until you really look at it. What was open? Were there windows? Were there opportunities to make plays downfield that he just chose not to because he just doesn't think he's got enough arm strength? He's just really just lollipopping the ball all over the field here, and that concerns me a little bit here. You saw a couple where the D-backs were able to catch up and make plays on the ball where guys were clear open just because he's just, so I don't know. That's kind of my read on Mac, and I don't know how much of that had to do with any sort of injury or whatever, but I was hoping after a year of strengthening this offseason, he would naturally just add some RPMs a little bit more. And I just didn't see him deliver anything with any zip today.
Well, last year I thought his bill of excellence, if you will, was he was rather consistent. He always played solid football. He made the right reads. He got the ball where he had to be for the most part. Today he seemed wildly inconsistent. He had a couple trunk plays on that first drive, got them into range, and then I don't know if it was a combination of some bad calls, but I mean there were times where he was just throwing hospital balls up to guys trying to make a play. Yeah. The fourth and one to Parker in the end zone was not good. There was another one in the middle of the field to Hunter Henry that he just, I don't know if that's on him or if it's on the actual play calling, but there were some inconsistent plays out there from.
There was one to the sideline on the left, and I can't remember to which receiver where they were clear by 10, 50, and he did make two good throws. The Jacoby Myers one, again, he lofted it up there. But Jacoby made a terrific catch.
Yeah.
And then the one to Kendrick Bourne, which Kendrick Bourne is a whole other story we'll get into. Really a couple of quality throws, and everything else was really kind of soft stuff underneath. But Ryan, your thoughts on Mac?
Yeah. And
your concern level, 1 to 10, watching Mac today.
I don't think he's necessarily the problem, right? I know the quarterback gets a lot of the focus, especially when the team does bad and plays as poorly as they did today. Like you said, I think you can see more when you get the all-22 look. What was he looking at? But just from the broadcast, right? It didn't seem like much separation, like problems that they've been having for years. The protection wasn't great, especially early on in the first half, right? And they kind of dug themselves a hole. And me and Alex talked about it this week, heading into this game, it's always a slop fest down in Miami, right? You're never out of the game, but things just never seem to go your way. You're always trailing. It's a 1-2 possession game. You're in it at the end, and then it's just too little, too late. But as for him, right, like you said, I think it's my concern level with him. It's not so much just him; it's the pieces around him, right? The offensive line, the play calling, and I talked to Mike about it before. I don't necessarily think you can kind of look back. And besides maybe the 4th and 1 throw to Parker, maybe that was the only thing you saw. And they did get bailed out by that, by a penalty.
Yeah.
Where you were kind of like, what is that play call, right? I don't even think that was much of their problem today. I just think it was lack of separation, lack of protection, and just timely plays. They're still struggling in that explosive category, right?
But add them together. Add it all together. That's the problem. So that's the problem with team is, you can defend anything individually. Okay, the offensive line, can you get away with not great offensive line play? Usually not, but there's time for them to gel, and if you have other pieces around them, maybe you can scheme it up. Can you get away without having terrific receivers? Sure. If you have the right balance and you have a strong running game and a quarterback who can get the ball there, can you get by with a quarterback who can't stretch the field and can't press the field with his arm? Absolutely. If you have X, Y, and Z, you can't have all three things not working. And that's the problem is, Mac Jones is the type of quarterback who would be ideal under perfect, he needs things to really, not be perfect around him, but he needs his pocket. He needs some separation because he's not going to be able to drill in balls to tight windows. And you're not getting either of those things. One group can't help the other right now. That's my biggest concern is I don't know where it comes from. They have to all of a sudden start clicking on a super high level and operating on a really high level to be able to get the offense going at all.
And things have to go perfect for them to
perfect. It has to be
successfully move the
perfect.
ball, right? And that's just a sign of a weak team and an offense with a lot of holes.
That's
right, because like you said earlier, their defense played well enough to win. I thought they had timely stops. They kept them. The Patriots had no business being in that game from the start.
No.
And they kept them in it. They were in it. They had a couple of drives at the end of the game where you're like, hey, if you can get 7 points here, get another stop, you're right back in it. So it's the offense again, which is just it's a head scratcher really from the start. Right when Josh McDaniels left, it just seemed like there was not a plan. And we're still sitting here after week one, we're kind of with this emoji that we've been feeling like for the last 6-7 months now. So
and the narrative that
Giants go for 2 and get it to take a lead over Tennessee. By the way, just we're live updates here. Why not? Anyway,
thanks for ruining my get right parlay for the week, John.
Yeah,
Titans money line. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine. But that's the thing is like I've been following this team, covering this team for a long time. So we've all been wrong so many times. And Belichick and the Patriots have been dead and buried so many times before that every reporter has realized it's foolish to rule them out. It just feels totally different because right now you're going back pretty much, to the last half of Brady's final season through the Cam year and through last year, which I think was a total smoke and mirrors year. They really only had one quality win over San Diego. The other 2 against winning teams were Buffalo in a snowstorm and Tennessee without a single offensive starter. So that 10-7 team was honestly probably closer to an 8-9 team. They were competitive in some other games, but they were up an improvement over the Cam Newton year, but not playoffs. Therefore, playoffs last year, another step forward this year. I never really bought that. No. And I think this is the 3rd year in a row where you're really kind of questioning the composition of the roster and whether there's enough talent there. So again, everything has to be perfect. But you've entered this year with the questions on the offensive line and then the coaching situation, which I don't know how long you can do this and operate on this level. It may not be all the coach's fault, but everyone in the offense is going to completely lose faith in this system if you don't see some results soon.
The coaching situation just continues to completely baffle me every single day we talk about it and write about it and tweet about it and look at it. Matt Patricia and Joe Judge can't be your offensive brass. I'm sorry. Like, you have a guy like Mike McDaniel across the way today who, granted, I mean, the Dolphins offense was fine today. We talked about it a little bit, but at least he's someone who's kind of had the experience in calling an offense before, and he's someone who's making Tua Tagovailoa look like okay at quarterback. Mac Jones had a promising year last year with someone like Josh McDaniels. He's gone. They don't replace it. Obviously, this was going to happen, and it's almost like we're asking these questions, but we already know the answers.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing with me. It dates back to you had months to prepare for something like this. And when you talk about the second year and that jump, especially with a rookie quarterback who, let's face it, had a really good year last year, considering the circumstances, a lot of new faces on the offensive side of the ball, right? I mean, say what you want, but this is supposed to be an improvement for him. You get Devontae Parker, you upgrade the X position, something they've looked at to try to improve on for years, right? Date back to the N'Keal Harry pick. Somebody that can play outside the numbers. Matt goes out and improves the arm. Are they going to make more throws down the field? And this is just since we saw them since the spring. It's like one step forward, 3 steps back, right? And now you're in season. That's even harder to make adjustments from a week to week basis, right? Because you're trying to fix what's right. You're trying to game plan and prepare for the next week. And it's almost too little, too late. I don't want to say that in terms of their season, right? It's 0-1. A lot of things can happen. They started 0-1 last year. It's a long year, but when you're seeing repeatedly, especially on the offensive side of the ball, when everybody knows what the game's like nowadays, right? Like, look at these teams around the league, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, even the Raiders and Chargers today. Even just look in the AFC, how quickly these teams can get up and down the field and put points on the board. It's a struggle for the Patriots right now to move the ball. Like they got past the 50. I think it was 3 times today. That's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. And again, it's just, you want to hold off judgment. Everybody every rational-minded person knows, like, it takes a while to really understand what a team is. You know, you need to get 4, 5, 6 games into the season to get a good idea of who they are. So you can't bury them, but this is that one time where, like, every single thing you were a little bit worried about, you see it right now. And what I'm looking for is, where's it going to come from? What's going to happen that's going to change it? And that's what I don't know. Is in the past, you're like, well, it's Tom freaking Brady, you know, and like he's either gone off the cliff or eventually they're going to figure stuff out because it's Tom freaking Brady and it's Bill Belichick, and you know they're the best of all time. But now it's like, what are you waiting to see happen? Which playmakers on the team are you waiting to unleash who just need more time in the system? You're in year 2 of Aguilar, year 2 of Jonnu and Hunter Henry. You know who they are. Jonnu's a gadget guy. Hunter Henry's a good third down guy, you know, and kind of a safety valve there for your quarterback. You have Aguilar, who made one decent play today and then had that horrible fumble. And beyond that, Parker's supposed to be your contested catch guy. Didn't do much of it today. So you're really not, I don't know that you're, I mean, the person I was most excited to see was Tyquan Thornton because he's the only one with, you know, game-breaking speed.
Right.
You wanted to see maybe you have something special in that, but I don't know what you're hoping for here. You know, if you've had a big bruising offensive line with backs like Harris and Stevenson, you could say, all right, we'll just bully ball our way into this until things start to kind of click on the with the passing and the protection and all of that stuff. But you can't get that either. So I'm trying to figure out, where's the relief coming from here? Like, where are you going to see improvements? You believe all of a sudden the Jones, the Patricia, Joe Judge thing is going to take hold and people are going to get it? Are they doing, you know, like, where's it coming?
Well, that's why I hate the narrative that we talked about earlier. That, oh, well, it's only the preseason. It's only preseason. What are you guys freaking out about? We watched it all summer long. We saw it in 3 preseason games. And we saw them not try to change or do anything besides just stick to their guns. And clearly it didn't happen today, right? And then we think, oh, well, what's going to change? And it seems like the only thing everyone's waiting for to change is Mac Jones to turn into that guy. But he doesn't have anything around him to help him do that. So, like, he can get there with help. You need a supporting cast, and he doesn't have that right now. And kind of like what you said earlier, Ryan, too little, too late. It's not too little too late on the season, but it's almost too little too late on getting Mac that help for the season, if that makes sense.
For sure. No, and I, like I said, I don't want to say he played, you know, horrible today, but he wasn't good. Like you said, his biggest thing that carried him for this long was the consistency that he carried himself with. Very inconsistent, right? But I think it's hard to point the finger at him, right? That the pieces around him are just not good enough. The offensive play call, like you asked, John, how long till they do this? They've been rolling with this plan since March. Like, this is it. Like, this is what they're going to have to do, at least for this year, right? And then you have to think, if it continues this way, when do they scrap this up and be like, you know, we got to get back to our identity with, you know, kind of the smash mouth football. But then you look at it like they have 4 new starters on their offensive line, guys that should thrive in that kind of zone read stuff. They don't have the linemen to do it either. So it's like, you have to commit to this type of offense at this point.
Yeah, and again, I don't know whether it's performance or heat or management. You know, you saw Strange sit a few series and then come back in the second half. I'm not sure if that had to do with his play. You also saw Isaiah Wynn sit out for a little bit. You saw Trent Brown sucking wind and not able to kick out on some of those run plays either. And this was Trent Brown is a type of guy who you saw it all training camp. He was just walking everywhere and didn't seem to be giving max effort, but also he's a veteran. He weighs 700 pounds. He's 9 feet tall. Like, he's a guy who you really want him to conserve his energy for the game, but he came out and it was a pretty, you know, he wasn't having himself a great game either, or a great day as well. So, I mean, that's a person you're expecting to be an anchor of that line. So there's a lot of problems there for sure. The other thing, and again, I don't know how much stock to put in this because there's a big freak out over the Kendrick Bourne situation. It is perplexing. I'm not going to pretend that, like, you know, if you want to compare it to Malcolm Butler, where some people are, and again, for those who didn't catch the full game or are still catching up on some of the stuff that happened, Kendrick Bourne didn't play a single snap till about 6 minutes to go. A little under 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Comes in immediately, makes a 41-yard reception on basically his first play from scrimmage. And for a team that's really struggling to make plays, Kendrick Bourne is a guy who came on last year in his first year and actually Tennessee might win this one.
Where are they now?
in field goal range. Kendrick Bourne is a guy who meshed with Mac in year one, much more so than, maybe with the exception of Henry, much more so than the other players. Something he did pissed off Bill during training camp, had to do with the effort, attitude, offseason he had, whatever that is. So he suits up and he doesn't play. So don't suit him up then. What are you doing? Proving points? Like, you're not in a position where you can do that now.
That's the same way I feel. Like
you can't do it. I don't think Kendrick Bourne saves you, but what are we doing that this is a thing where you're sending a message, suiting a guy up and not using him while no one can get open, and then you finally try it and it
works.
41 yarder makes you look even worse. At that point, don't put him in at all.
And it's obviously you don't know the stuff behind the scenes, right? Like what went on. But I thought embarrassing him enough in that preseason game, right, where his locker was open. He got thrown out of practice, and he just doesn't even show up for the game, not even on the sidelines. Like, that's embarrassing enough. And talk about a guy that I think brought a ton of juice to that offense last year, where that's something you're lacking. You've lacked the whole time. I don't understand it. Like, they have a lot of B receivers, right? It's Kendrick Bourne, much better than Devontae Parker or Jacob Myers, right? Like, they all bring something different. I think they're kind of all on that same par or level. But he's somebody that's really good after the catch, somebody that consistently got open, and like you said, built some sort of rapport with Mac Jones last year. And it's just a weekly thing now. We're going on almost a month, right, where he's been on the second team. He got embarrassed in a preseason game. They suit him up here today. And I actually give him a lot of credit. Obviously, I'm not down there, but listening to his post-game interview, he's very professional about it, right?
I'll play that right here. I have it for everybody. I'm going to play. Here's Kendrick Bourne, and again, he could have gone off, but he didn't. Here's what he had to say.
How would you describe just your emotions after really not playing and trying to process what's going on here?
Yeah, just waiting for my opportunity. Yeah, just waiting for the coaches and just waiting for the moment for me to go in.
What have they told you about why this is the case?
Not sure. Just playing my role, you know what I mean? So whatever I got to do, just waiting for that moment. I don't really know, so just waiting on the opportunity.
How frustrating has it been to wait?
It's tough, just keep my mind in it, though, knowing my teammates are capable, you know what I mean? It's not about me, it's not my part, it's not about me at all, so just waiting for the opportunity, that's all I can really say.
Did anything happen maybe that you could share with us that you might think?
No, just not giving the coaches what they want, what they need to see, so just need to get better on my part.
Kendrick, you're an overly positive person. Is there a sense of disappointment the way things are going?
Yeah, I mean, I look at that, right? Like you said, could have bashed him. I thought that was very professional of him. And like you said, this has been an ongoing thing. I don't understand it, right? Just from being around him, seeing the type of teammate he is, it doesn't seem like he's the guy that's going to pop off at somebody or a coach or, he's a team guy, not a we guy, right? Like some of these receivers, right? They want the ball. They're kind of that diva mentality. He seems like he wants to win. I don't understand it. And like you said, when nobody else on your wide receiver corps really did anything today and you just continuously wait while you're still in the game, your defense is getting you timely stops. You put him in, you get a 41-yarder, and then he's back on the bench. What are we doing here? You're not the same Patriot team you were 5 years ago where you could afford to do that and still get a win, right? Where you're sending a message. You're not good enough to do that anymore. That's what's frustrating.
The word that's going to come into play here, and the word that I keep thinking of when it comes to Bill regarding this particular team and the situation that he is in and that he's been in for the last couple of years, is hubris. And at some point, I don't know who's there to check it right now. I don't need coordinators. I got my guys. As long as they speak my language, we'll figure it out. I don't need this type of guy. As long as I've got that, that's fine. I don't need high price this. I've got my guys. We'll be fine. I don't need that. I don't need this. We'll be fine. We can do it as long as everybody does what I want them to do. Again, this is a system. And again, everything is going to be on freezing cold takes when the Patriots rip off 6, straight wins, and we'll all be wrong, and we've all been wrong before. But what can you do other than react to what you see right now? And what I see is, Bill liking to coach a certain way and coach a certain type of people and do things and have people in his organization who get what he's doing and are on the same page, and that's the most important thing to him. But you look around the league and you see, and it's not just friggin' fantasy football highlights, red zone sort of stuff where you see, but you see talent winning out. You see Jamar Chase, you see your Justin Jeffersons, you see these guys just making individual plays all over the field. You see just a higher level of talent at the skill positions and different places where it's just, when the Patriots just seem to lack it. And then when you don't, and you have people bringing in talented, that hot offensive coordinator to come in and call the plays and to be the head coach and to run the system. And you go from having McDaniels, who's one of the best in the business, backwards. I don't really understand that. And so that's where you are right now. You have this is the way I do things here, and it's worked for me in the past, but it's not working. And how much longer is it not going to work for before you have to reevaluate it? And who's going to reaevaluate it?
There's no one.
There's no one at that point.
It's Bill. He runs the entire operation. He's not going to get canned.
Tyreek, Waddle, look at Miami. You know, imagine if Miami had Herbert and not Tua right now. Oh my God, you know, like you'd be a different ball game. But anyway, yeah, I don't know where I just don't know where it comes from.
I mean, the thing with Bourne too, staying on that, right? We saw this a little bit early on last year. Like Myers had a tough time getting snaps. I believe it was last year, the COVID year, right? Then he, kind of midway through the year, took over the slot, right? So there's still some time for him to earn a role, and I think he's deserving of that. We saw Stevenson the first 4 weeks, right? He was in and out, had a timely fumble week 1. He was kind of splitting time with J.J. Taylor. Then he took off once somebody got hurt. So there's still some, I think, kinks to be worked out, but he just scored 7 points. Like at that point, like you got to put Matthew Slater in or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like something's got to change.
Well, the thing with Bourne
and an ongoing thing, like you said, it's not just the preseason. Like this is what you saw today is what we saw from OTAs to training camp with shells on to the pads to the joint practice to the preseason game. I don't remember a day they won, offensively at least.
Right, and the thing with Bourne, I feel like there's been a narrative around him that he's a gamer anyway and doesn't really perform in practice. And so to have these reports coming out about Bourne now that, he's lost his confidence and he was benched for I was listening to Greg Bedard on the Sports Hub after the game, and he was saying that Kendrick has lost his confidence. He was benched. He's been an annoyance, and they've been unhappy with him. He's still a gamer in the game, and you saw it today. So it's like, what could, and like Ryan, you said it too, that we're not in the building, so we don't know what's going on, of course. But if it has to do with his performance on the field, like he alluded to after the game, he's going to go in there and he's going to make plays regardless. He's going to make it happen. Like he did it last year and he did it today this year. They gave him his chance at the end and he, boom, 41-yard reception instantly. So you have to get that guy in the field. You have to go against your grain. You have to kind of put your ego away if you're Bill Belichick and let this
what's
offense
next?
run
Like you just embarrassed him again on week 1.
Exactly.
I don't know what you're just going to continue to do this and just hurt the team. Because not playing him right now is hurting your team.
No, and the embarrassment thing in the preseason game, that's a preseason game.
He lost his confidence, then started annoying people, so Bill benched him, or he got benched and lost his confidence. Which one happened first?
Knowing him and the person he is, it seems to be probably when he got benched, right? And that's controllable. If you want to bench a guy or throw him out of practice for fighting the third week of preseason, but that's an integral piece of your offense. This shouldn't be dragged on, right? And like you said, I guess you never know what's going on in there, but just from the person he is being around him the last 2 years, I have a tough time believing it's something worse where something as bad as you're not playing for me no matter what the situation.
Right. And it's not
especially
like
with Thornton out. They don't even.
And he didn't come out in the press conference, John. The video you just played, he didn't come out and badmouth or give an attitude to anyone. He just sat there and said, "No, I'm just not making the coaches happy and doing what I'm supposed to be, and I just need to keep getting better." He gave the Patriot way answers, even though he, according to reports, is annoyed with the Patriot way.
Yeah, and then there was another report. And again, I'm not trying to make this friggin', House of Dragons, palace intrigue, drama sort of stuff, but
TMZ.
No, but I mean, Trent Brown also refusing to talk to reporters. And again, I don't know the context there, but it was something else that's put out there. Just that vibe of like, when you don't talk, you're mad about something and you're afraid you're going to say stuff you don't say usually. And that could be, and again, would it be the most surprising thing in the world? I'm not putting words in their mouth and I'm not saying anybody's saying this. Would you be stunned if all of a sudden the offensive line is like, yeah, we're playing like crap. There's nobody friggin' coaching us. The offensive line coach is trying to call friggin' plays over there. Like we're a mess. We need some help. But I don't know if they feel that way. I know that some people have discussed that, and Greg being another one who said kind of like there's definitely not a positive vibe, behind the scenes about what's going on, in terms of putting people in a position to succeed. And that's always been Belichick's like number one strength. So it is weird to have, kind of a situation here where that's happening.
And it's unfortunate today too, because we talked about it this week. Like, this is a team you're on par with. I mean, right? Like, even on paper, they're a much better team. Look at that. You played that bad today, and you were still in the game, right? So this is a game you look back on. If you're in the mix later on in the year, say, damn, I wish we had that one, right? Same thing as last year. Week 1 loss, you have that at the end. You're not fighting for Buffalo week 7 or week 18 for the division, right? So these are meaningful football games, and you unfortunately, you pissed down your leg today.
Yeah, you did. I like how you said that. You did. I don't know that the Patriots are necessarily as talented as Miami. I don't think they are. I think talent is a problem. So I think they have to get by with being the Patriots, which is super coached, super well coached, and with top tier, highest level execution. So everything that they go to do, they have to do it well. I'm not going to say the execution was horrible today. There were plays. There were some problems with the offensive line. And then the turnovers are really what killed them. So you're right. I hate doing the whole, well, if we didn't turn it over. I mean, look, the Patriots made a living on that, is turning other teams over, making them make mistakes, making them beat themselves, and then beating you. So you can't say that's a thing that you do and then not, give the other team credit when that happens to you as well. Okay. You turned it over. They made you turn it over. That's that, it is what it is. So you have to not do that, but you do really need to play a near clean, perfect game, which the Patriots at this point, I just don't think are capable of doing.
The strip sack for a touchdown in the moment, I thought that's on Mac Jones. You have to see that blitzer coming. I know.
Belichick didn't sound like that.
That's what I was going to say.
Hunter Henry should have chipped him. Hunter Henry
after the game came out and they kind of said Belichick kind of cleared that up.
We had enough guys to block that.
Exactly. Yep. But I mean, still, it's whether that was on Mac or whether that's on tight end tripping or Trent Brown moving out towards the left to get that guy. It's bad execution and it leads to a turnover and it leads to a touchdown. So like you only allow 13 points on defense, but you let up an extra 7 with your offense.
That is true. I don't know. Hold on one second. It was a frustrating one for sure. Because somebody said it here in the chat, you do wonder what happens if they don't throw that pick or if a PI is called there. Is it different? I don't know. I wonder, you wonder there if they don't turn it over, can they stay in this? Yeah, maybe. They maybe could have. And again, I think Miami is, on paper more talented, but I think again, they have
they're beatable. You can beat that team.
They're really beatable because, again, they have a ceiling. I actually, coming into this game, despite my prediction was Patriots were going to win, because I actually thought Bill versus the rookie head coach and Tua, they're not going to let Tua beat him. And I kind of thought they could have still squeaked this one out despite the fact that they didn't really play well. So, yes, this is a beatable team. There's plenty of beatable teams on the schedule. They do have a tough schedule. You have Pittsburgh next week. They've got some injury concerns as well. So, yeah, I mean.
TJ Watt, Najee Harris. I mean, TJ Watt seems like he's done for the year. Najee Harris left the game early with, I believe, a foot injury. That's never good.
They said afterwards it wasn't.
Trubisky.
Yeah, they said after it's not as bad. But again, are you worried about Mitch Trubisky? No, you're not. Ever. Ever.
Well, we weren't worried about Tua.
Yeah, I know, but they do have other weapons, and it's Miami is Miami, and they've lost, 4 straight there. So that's always an issue. I want to tell people real quick before we move on, and we'll keep talking here about our sponsor, Athletic Greens. Are you guys into this stuff? I'm into this stuff. No?
I am. I've had it before. It's great.
You should get some. I've got some right here and right here. We all use it. It's a big thing on the Garden Report. We use it a ton. So I would like you guys here, Patriots people, you're into health, right? It's the fall. It's going to clean up your act. It's kind of an all-in-one supplement here. 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food-sourced ingredients, probiotics. I always get this one wrong, but it's adaptogens to help you start your day right. Why do I do it? Makes me feel good. I've been taking it for the last month or so. It's good for digestion. It's good for energy. It's good for your immune system. It's so super easy. It's basically one scoop in the morning, small cup of water, boom, you're done. $3 a day. If you went and shopped this stuff out lots of different places, you'd probably be spending $10, $15 getting a bunch of different things. This is all in one place. It's any sort of diet friendly, vegan, paleo, keto, whatever you have. No GMOs, no nasty chemical, artificial stuff. Supports better sleep quality and recovery, mental clarity and alertness. So it really has everything you would want here in a kind of a one and done supplement. It's endorsed by. It's got 7,000 5-star reviews, recommended by pro athletes, leading health experts, celebrities, what have you. So again, this is a product that a lot of people really vouch for. We vouch for it as well. So again, go check it out, athleticgreens.com/garden. That's athleticgreens.com/garden. Go check it out. You will get what it says on the screen here. 1 year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs. So it's a good little bonus there if you go check that out. If you're a fan of basketball, we have Garden Report t-shirts we can send along here. Any fans of the show? That guy right there. We'll send you a t-shirt as well if you DM me with a receipt showing that you supported our sponsor here, Athletic Greens. So, guys, other thoughts here, other takeaways. We mentioned the defense playing relatively well. What were your thoughts there? Anything that kind of stood out? Kyle Duggar certainly was all over the field. Early in that game, made some big plays. I thought they covered relatively well, minus a couple of slip-ups there, and that was a Duggar missed tackle really there on that big play by Waddle there at the end of the half, which really was a backbreaker. But on the whole, it was a pretty solid defensive performance.
Yeah, I thought too, even when you lose Adrian Phillips, a big piece of your defense, they were able to kind of hold it together. I thought Jonathan Jones, once again, did a pretty good job on Tyreek Hill. I know 8 catches for 94 yards, but nothing really too major, right? Made a couple nice catches in some tight coverage. Kyle Duggar, I thought, was your best player on the field. But lack of a pass rush. I thought Tua had, a little bit too much time. I thought this was a game that if the Patriots were going to win, they had to dominate in the trenches and just not enough juice there, I guess. But from a secondary perspective, I thought they played pretty well considering, right? The one backbreaker, that Jalen Waddle touchdown on 4th down with 20 seconds to go in the first half, that really killed you, right? They were out of timeouts. They were kind of in that in-between zone where they're not going to kick a field goal and turn the ball over. They go for it and put 7 points on the board. That killed them, right? But I think Kyle Duggar certainly continues to make strides as one of their top safeties. Miles Bryant struggled big time.
Yeah,
I thought he had some tough plays. Jack Jones, sorry, there's so many Jones in this team. Struggled a little bit, obviously, with big assignment on Tyreek Hill for some of the game. So, I thought the defense played well enough to win. They got timely stops, especially when they went down early, and the offense just couldn't play complementary football.
Again, and you can do that because Miami has a Tua problem, and they don't have super dynamic running backs as well, so you're not really worried there. They're not going to necessarily beat you in the run game. They have terrific weapons on the outside there with Waddle and Hill. This might be the fastest wide receiver combo in the league right now. So yeah, they've got guys who can beat you, but the Pats did a good job, minus that Waddle play, of keeping them from, beating them downfield again. I don't know what Tua's kind of got in the bag there to be able to pull that off, and again, I recognize Max in the same boat, but I still think the Patriots are firmly behind the Dolphins in the division, at least where things stand right now. They have to prove that they can play better than that, because Miami didn't play that particularly well either, and still managed to win this one 20-7. So I think they're ahead of them. You want to hope that the Patriots are certainly ahead of at least the Jets. We watched the Bills play already. They look like they play a different sport. So I don't even want to. I don't even want to be here when those games happen. So it's a long way to go, man. I don't know.
Duggar was a beast, like we said, as a box safety, making a bunch of tackles, couple tackles for loss. But in a game where 13 points, like I said it before, but 13 points on offense, 7 on the other end, won the strip sack. If you make that one play, you're right in the game. Instead, you let them score 4th and 7 with 24 seconds left, whatever it was, on a bad missed tackle by Kyle Duggar. Duggar was great, but you have to be more consistent. I mean, that's just the way it is. And I've talked about it before, but the speed in the middle of the field that I've kind of been touting this whole summer, yeah, they let Tyreek, like, I don't know, the middle of the field. I thought they improved it. Tua was, I found this on Twitter. Tua was 5 of 7 for 106 yards and a touchdown on passing plays between 10 and 19 yards with a passer rating of 153.3. You have to be able to cover the middle of the field better because everyone's getting the ball at guys in space now, and you just got to be able to do it. The benching of not benching, but inactivation of Anthony Jennings was a question mark to me too. I don't really know why they did it. I don't know what you guys have for thoughts on that, but they lacked a little bit of speed there on the inside because of that too.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still looking for the positive.
Right.
I don't know that we're going to find it.
I guess like letting up 13 points is something to build off of, but it wasn't very impressive. Like it just wasn't.
And, you look to September is a tough schedule for them, right? To try to, I guess, focus on the positive or turn the page next week. You get a winnable game next week. You come home versus a Baltimore team that, obviously beat up on the Jets today. But I think there's some holes in that team as well. And then you obviously head to Green Bay to finish out the month. And you have an October schedule where it's pretty, friendly for you to pick up some wins and kind of find your identity after September. So, like I said, looking ahead, trying to be a little more positive. I think it's a big week for them to get right in Pittsburgh.
Okay. Well,
another game they can win.
It's winnable, man. I mean,
right.
Again, it was the start to the season. That's the problem. That's what's tough with the Patriots is it's a relatively soft start, but that's also the time they're trying to figure themselves out. So you don't want to be kind of taking your lumps early and giving away, winnable games against teams like the Steelers. I expect the Ravens, would be a tough challenge here. Packers look like absolute, today, just dreadful. Aaron Rodgers just pouting and wouldn't throw to any receivers all game. And not that they necessarily have any receivers to throw to, but that doesn't look like a super potent team. The Lions are the Lions, the Browns are the Browns, then the Bears. I mean, that's a soft start. There's a world in which the Patriots could have ripped, and then it's the Jets. I mean, there's a world in which the Patriots could have ripped off a 6-1 start if everything was going right without even really playing great. So they got to figure it out now. If you muck this early part of the schedule, things get brutal later on. Yeah. And so you do have to start. You don't have time to figure yourselves out. You have to tighten it up and start stacking up wins.
The Packers did that last year, though. They did lose to the Saints week 1. They got spanked by the Saints, and then they ended up rattling a bunch off. So I think that Aaron Rodgers and that team just kind of eases into it, but he's still a whiny baby. But
what we're not discussing here is also the possibility that Mac Jones is actually hurt. So we don't know. If that happens, turn out the lights, guys.
Oh, yeah. It's over.
That's going to be –
What do you do? Do you play Brian Hoyer? Do you trade for Jimmy Garoppolo's shorter contract now?
No. I think you like you said, John, you shut the lights off. Let's look ahead to next year. Let's get a good draft position. I know we're talking about this after week 1, but like I said, back injuries could be major, could be super minor, but obviously something you don't want to be dealing with as a quarterback, especially at that position. So obviously you don't want to speculate that the x-rays are negative. Somebody who's had back problems in the past, a back surgery, you don't really see much on an x-ray. It's more an MRI because a lot of this stuff, that's the stuff you worry about with him. So like I said, you'll probably know more earlier this week. Maybe it was precautionary. Didn't want to talk, and it's kind of their way to get out of it. But
that's what I think too.
Something to look ahead to.
They do that sometimes, but usually, it, like I said, is, and I believe it was, let me see if I can find it. Might have been Mark Daniels who kind of went by the blow by blow. And it just sounded like, everything was weird. Like, and I'll go through what Daniels reported here on the Providence Journal. Clock hits 0. Jones sprints off the field. First person to kind of run into the tunnel here. And again, just updating people at home about what's going on. Mac Jones suffered a back injury, did not speak to the media. So I'm just going to go over what Daniels reported here. Sprints off the field. And then when they get, back to the post-game media area, Jones slowly walks towards the x-ray room with several Patriots medical staffers. and Paul Cusick, who's the Patriots head of internal medicine. Then he goes back to the locker room. Once there, Jones immediately goes into the trainer's room with several Patriots staffers outside the door, leaves the trainer's room, sits down in his locker with his head down. The trainer comes over, talking to him at some point, asking him to move his head in different directions. He gets back up, goes back into the trainer's room. Then Belichick goes to the podium, says, I don't know if anything's wrong. I haven't talked to anybody. And then after that happens, it's the Patriots PR staff announces that Jones is not going to speak to the media. So that's what happened there. We're going to bring in Alex Barth as well, who's going to enlighten us, illuminate us on what we saw down in Miami, try to make us feel better. Alex, are you going to bring in some sunlight here?
Let's hear it.
Are you all gloom and doom?
Well, I don't know what you guys have said.
It's season
pretty
over.
gloom and doom.
I'll start with my positive. Well, so I guess my positive and negative are 1 and 1. When your defense allows 13 points in the NFL, you should win the game. Patriots defense allowed 13 points today. 7 points off the strip sack fumble, right? Patriots defense allowed 13 points today. I know Tua's not a world beater at quarterback, and he probably helped them out a little bit, but I thought they made some plays defensively. I think the defensive front more or less looked like what you'd hoped it would look like. Constant pressure from Matthew Judon. Dietrich Wise, I thought, had a very good game today. I liked what I saw at the second level. I thought Juwan Bentley played pretty well. Raekwon McMillan got a ton of run. That was encouraging. Could have had some better plays in the secondary. Like they held Tyreek Hill under 100 yards, I thought, with, they weren't like doubling him and tripling him. Jack Jones grabs that pick. It's probably a different conversation. That's kind of the, that. And then obviously the play at the end of the half you don't want. But let's put it this way. If that play at the end of the half was the worst play the Patriots made today, it'd be annoying. It'd certainly be annoying. There's no excuse for that, especially out of the timeout. But it's not a problem in a 30-13 win. Right, You're not even worried about it. We'd be like, that was weird, right? I'll say the same about Mac Jones. I see a lot of people second-guessing Mac Jones today. Is Mac Jones the guy? If Mac Jones' performance was their biggest issue today, they would have been okay. Like that would have been, wouldn't be great, but that would have been fine. I think when you look at just the offensive line, communication still looks like it's a mess. The overall offensive picture is still way too cloudy. We heard Bill talk this week, and this is something that's gotten brought up a lot the last couple weeks, right? That, Bill believes the first month to 6 weeks are an extension of the preseason. This game was everything that suggests, right? Sure. They're making these weird personnel changes. The whole Kendrick Bourne thing might be its own thing, but him not playing, there still just seems to be zero direction offensively. I don't think you could expect for much more from Mac Jones today than what he did because they're not, giving him a ton, right? I was texting somebody earlier, the analogy for me with Mac Jones. Yes, Mac Jones isn't going to be some world beater playmaker quarterback. That's never who he was going to be. The idea is he's the bus driver and he will get you where you need to go. But if you give him a bus with flat tires and a busted transmission, he's not a mechanic. He's not going to fix the bus.
I know, but is he even that good a bus driver? And again, that's what people are starting to question is if you look at each group on its own, you can make an issue with each one. So the receivers could say, well, if I had a quarterback who had an arm, he could drill it into some windows because I was open by a step, but Mac's not going to be able to get it to me there. So I might as well be blanket covered. Or if the offensive line's saying, well, the guy can't this, and that, anybody, you work in, I've worked in a newsroom for 25 years. The assignment desk thinks the reporters are idiots. The reporters think that the producers are idiots. The producers think the editors are idiots. And round we go because everyone's like, well, I'm doing the best I can, but X, Y, and Z. And so I'm not blaming Mac. All I'm saying is you're looking for someone. The sad thing is you're almost looking to Mac to save you, and him not being able to do so because of who he is what he's being judged for, less than the fact that he's not doing a decent job.
If you're asking your second-year quarterback to bail you out of this, look, if it was just, hey, Cole Strange is a new starter on the offensive line, that's manageable. If it was just, hey, we're not going to play your most dynamic receiver today, I don't want to say that's manageable, but they should have enough to get by.
You missed that. That was it's just not the time to make an example of somebody when you lack offensive.
They're asking
that's
him
your one guy.
It's 4 new starters on the offensive line. It's this weird wide receiver, arrangement. I forget the play calling. The playbook didn't look inspired. they're asking him to put out too many fires, which you just can't ask your second-year quarterback to do. So, John, like, I agree in that sense. They're just asking him to fix more than he can fix. I don't think that's an indictment on Mac Jones, because I would say the majority of second-year quarterbacks can't fix everything they're asking Mac Jones to fix. It's just too much.
Let me ask you this question, though.
And saying Mac Jones isn't good enough to dig them out of all these holes, I don't think is a hot take. Like, yeah.
It's not that. You want to see things, right? Like, if you're going to say it's an extension of the preseason, you don't just want to see execution. You want to see things that are going to give you confidence that there are brighter days ahead. So I'll use a crude golf analogy, but when I golf and I'm like rusty, I feel much better about it when I'm making solid contact, even if I'm spraying it all over the place, because I feel good. I'm hitting my clubs the right length and I'm just off, but it's there. The stroke is there. The power is there, whatever it is that I want. And I feel okay, rather than scull it down the fairway 150 yards and be in play for my second shot. I feel shittier on the second one. So if Mac Jones was out there and you saw in year 2 that arm strength was a little bit better and he ripped a few throws downfield, and that was promising, because once they get in sync, that's going to be good. But instead, I'm seeing lollipop throws all over the field, and you're like, how are they going to move the ball here with that? So this offensive line and those weapons, I don't see how it comes together. That's my fear, is all those three pieces. I don't seem that they've got issues that it's going to be difficult for one to pull everybody in and make it work together.
So on the arm strength, it's going to be really interesting to see or hear when he hurt his back, because
I agree. Yeah.
Right. But all right. So you want the contact? I'll give you the contact here. I'll give you the rub. And I tweeted this out before the Patriots' last drive that ended with the fumble. So the second number might be a little higher, but on their scripted drives, the Patriots scripted drives, the first drive of each half, they added they averaged 6.3 yards per play. That's the first drive that it was pass interference in the end. Like, Parker needs to be more aggressive to go to that ball, but that drive really should have ended in. And then the second drive, which did end in points, 6.3 yards per play on the scripted drives. On the other drives, 2.9 yards per play. Obviously, well short. What's the difference between the scripted and the non-scripted? Well, I just think they took a much more panicked approach when it wasn't scripted, which is not the best sign for Matt Patricia. That's kind of I don't know that means anything or not. I got to go back and I'm going to do it after this and go back and rewatch the game and kind of see what the difference was there. But there's your contact. The scripted drives, they looked good. That opening drive, they looked good. They were moving the ball. They were running it. They were throwing it. They were picking up yards after the catch, which was an issue last year. Jacoby made that high point throw. That's a catch that has not been in his toolbox.
But again, I'm not making it all Mac based. I'm saying, I'm
not either. I'm telling you,
wouldn't you have loved to see a couple receivers running free and Mac just missing them and being like, oh, they're getting separation. There's something there. It's going to happen.
I would say that did happen with Aguilar. I know there was at least one. I want to say maybe two with Aguilar. There was one down the sideline when he missed them. And there was one with, I think it was Jonnu Smith. I forget. It was late in the first half. That was a similar. There were a couple of those. There definitely were like that's the thing.
But he made some big throws. The Myers throw was perfect. The one that Kendrick
and the Bourne throw.
Like,
honestly, I think
those two have a connection there.
The Parker
was a good
throw
ball
that was
too.
picked. That's where you put that throw, because
that's
either
spot,
the wide receiver is
going to a spot.
Right, you're putting it to your big 50-50 ball receiver. He's either going to go get it, or the corner's going to have to run through him, and it's PI. Parker just overran it. He Nelson Aguilar it, like from the playoff game last year against Buffalo.
And again, this isn't a blame Mac for all of their problems. I'm saying Mac has an undue amount of, stress and pressure to kind of make magic happen.
And he's not athletic enough to be able to extend plays.
Yes.
Right. When things go wrong and you see these
he's
guys
not
like
that guy.
Kyler Murray or a Patrick Mahomes, right? Not to compare him. He's never going to be a guy like that.
He was never expected to be.
No, absolutely not, right? But that becomes, you need to have a better team around you, because if things don't go perfect or how they should, he doesn't have the talent and the athleticism to be able to extend plays with his legs, get outside the pocket, make a throw on the run. Like, he's limited in that sense. And I'm not saying they can't win with him. I think he's a great leader, somebody that you want in a franchise quarterback. They just need to do a better job of building around him, and they haven't done that since, they turned the page from last season, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'm not. So I think we agree on that. Like, it's not Mac's not good enough. It's they're asking Mac to do more than they realistically should ask.
In order for it to Mac needs to be a miracle worker right now.
But I guess what I would say is, I think there are some people out there who think that there is another option at court. And I don't know who that supposedly is. Like Patrick Mahomes, yeah, probably could, but you're not getting him, right? I think there's some people that think that there is some other option out there of some guy they could get who could kind of tie all this together. That guy doesn't exist. And it's not, oh, well, they should have moved up and get Justin Fields. Justin Fields dealt with a lot of similar problems last year in Chicago. That didn't go well, right? Oh, well, they should just tank and get somebody in the draft. All right, so we're back to this again, and it's the same thing where they could draft somebody with more physical talent, fine. But if you put the kid in the same situation, you're probably going to see similar results because it's a learning process. So I have trouble putting this on Mac.
It's not on Mac.
Just a situational thing. Yeah,
it's not on Mac. When we arrive at it, when we talk about everything that's going on, then it really, if you have a quarterback that can do certain things and is more of a game managing bus driver, as you said it, you have receivers that are really more like 3s and 4s rather than 1s and 2s or even 2s and 3s. On good teams, there's not a single Patriots receiver that's a top 2 receiver on the better offenses in the NFL. No chance. So if you have all of that and you have some issues, then it really comes down to coaching. And this is where I think most of the heat is actually going to fall on here. It's unrealistic and unfair to tell Mac to fix it, but it is not unrealistic to tell Bill Belichick and the coaching staff to fix it. And that's where everyone's going to turn a lot of their focus to is, what are you guys doing to make this better for them? You can't just shrug your shoulders and say, well, we didn't make the plays and we didn't whatever. You have to do something right now. And I don't know, Alex, how long you think this Judge Patricia situation can be allowed to continue.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. You know, some people are talking today about like, oh, is Bill on the hot seat? Is his job in jeopardy? He's going to get through the season. Like that's,
of course he's going to get through the season.
If they start out next year like this, maybe you have that conversation. The real conversation to have here is when do they? I don't know who it would be. Whether it would be Adam Gase, hopefully not, or it would be somebody else who gets let go elsewhere. When do they hire an offensive consultant? Right. That to me
throw them in mid-season though.
Yeah.
To bring a guy in mid-season like that, that's not gonna. I mean, is that really gonna go over well in your locker room though? Like, is that gonna you bring in a guy and it's
not gonna go over any worse than averaging 270 yards of offense?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying it's
too. I'm not saying they should. I'm not saying they should. I'm saying that is the like, where is the leash on this question? Like, that's really how to frame it. Is at what point do they bring somebody else in to clean this thing up?
And Ryan did have to peace out. We're gonna put a bow on it. That's the thing is, would Bill? And again, the word I threw around earlier is hubris. Right now, Bill has always done things his way, and it's always worked, and there's been no reason to question it. Do you believe he's going to all of a sudden be like, oh, I was totally wrong about this thing everybody said I was totally wrong about, and like, yeah, all of the idiot media and all of the pundits absolutely were right. What am I doing having these guys coach this team, coach the offense? I absolutely need to bring somebody in because none of us are well equipped enough to do it. What are the chances Bill does that? If it's going to happen, and this is where you said Bill hot seat. Bill's not going anywhere this year. And I don't think Bill's going to start next year and then be on the hot seat. The hot seat's going to be, if things go horribly wrong or continue on this path, it's going to be an uncomfortable conversation where Robert finally has to say, so this whole GMing thing isn't going great. You're obviously still a great coach, but what can we do here to fix that? And then Bill's going to have to decide whether or not, yeah, I do need help here, and I do have to bring in some outside perspective and people who see things through a different lens, or screw you, my way or the highway. And that's where things are going to get interesting. Yeah. It's never going to be Bill is flat out fired or tossed aside. It's going to be can we get you some help, Bill, and whether or not he's willing to accept it. So do you think he would be? You think he's going to make that choice on his own?
To bring in
outside help to say that what I think works isn't necessarily working. I need to bring in some people, and that could be whether it's on the personnel side in drafting or whether it's on the offensive side of the ball to come in here and kind of devise new ways to do things.
I mean, look, he's done it before. I mean, it was under different circumstances, but they brought McDaniels back, right? When Bill O'Brien was still here. And again, it's not quite apples to apples because that was in the playoffs and McDaniels was leaving, O'Brien was leaving, but he's not gonna say
that was one of his
Bill,
guys, though. That's one of his guys.
But that's why
so
I'm saying,
was Scar. When they brought Scar back, that's one of his guys.
He's not going to bring in some guys never worked with. It's going to be
exactly.
It's going to be one of his guys that gets let go elsewhere. But it's not going to be I was wrong. The media was right. I need to change this.
Of course, that's not what he's going to say. But I'm saying
it will be this. I need to do this to help me catch Shula. That's what it'll be.
Well, geez, that's what I watch football for.
Yeah, right.
Old guys breaking other old guys' records. At this point, don't you just owe it to your team and to the personnel and to the people there who are kind of like, is someone here going to tell me where I'm supposed to go?
Well, I would say yes, but aren't we? I think we're past that point.
So, but
if it were about that,
how quickly do you lose people, though? How quickly does this turn into 2009?
Very soon.
If it's not already there.
Right. Well, I mean, look at Kendrick Bourne. We don't know what's going on there, but look at Kendrick Bourne. I would argue that's a very 2009-ish occurrence.
And
look, I'm not going to say that they're past the point of no return. They're not, right? If they
clearly not,
get in the lab, figure it out next week, actually put Kendrick Bourne out there. Steelers passed. I know they had 4 picks, but they didn't look amazing today. Like Joe Burrow just didn't look great.
There's a lot of beatable teams early in this slate.
You come out next week, you throw for 300 yards on Pittsburgh. Bourne goes off for 120 and a touchdown. Everything's hunky-dory, right? You've got
Bourne going off for 120 and a touchdown is the same thing as Malcolm Butler getting 3 picks in the first game of the following season. I don't want to if that happens, I'm going to be angry, not happy.
Right.
But no, I would be angry too. But Bourne went for a third of that today, easy. On 2 snaps, he went for a third of that. No, it would be annoying. It would be because we'll get late in Bourne's going to come back, have a great year. It's going to be late in the season. They're going to need like one game for something in the standings. And we're going to say, well, if only Kendrick Bourne had played in Miami. Like,
and that's where I'm not going to get into it. It's like, let's not pretend everyone thought Kendrick Bourne was the world beater that he kept out of there. That would have been the difference. It's just, I don't understand what you're doing here. And why you're doing it at this point. Why even dress him if you're still sending a message?
We've been asking that question since the Eagles Super Bowl.
None of it makes sense. And it very much is the Eagles Super Bowl situation. They're like, why even dress him? Just to show the world that like, you're going to sit there and you're going to be embarrassed for the whole game and everyone's going to wonder why you're not playing. I don't really get that.
And it just looks worse on him.
Yeah.
It doesn't embarrass him. And no one's sitting here like, oh yeah, Kendrick Bourne, he was really embarrassed today. Bill really showed him. We're all saying, what the heck was that? It doesn't solve anything. It doesn't solve anything inside or outside.
It's not to show us. It's to show. And Bill said it wasn't disciplinary. I don't know that I totally buy that. Just like
he wouldn't tell us if it was. I don't think.
In general, like when these sort of things happen, right? Just from being around sports teams and all of that, the message is to the rest of the team. The message is to Bourne. It's you did something where now we saw you unfit to play, and look at the situation you left the team in. Like that's I don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes, but Mike, you've played on teams like when you bench a player, that's the point. It's look at the situation you put the team in by your actions. You need to be more team oriented. Right. I'm not saying that's like that Bourne did something that deserved that treatment, but that's generally what the intended message is behind these things.
Right.
For better or worse.
Yeah, for better, for worse. And I don't know that Kendrick Bourne necessarily makes the difference today. But again, if you're searching for offense and you bring a guy in and he immediately goes for 41-yard completion down the sideline.
That crossing route, that Aguilar fumbled, that was Bourne's route last year.
Yeah.
Bourne's a little more adept at putting the ball in his hands in that spot. So I'll say
good point. That's a good point too. So the doomsday question I'll ask, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. We do know that Mac went in for X-rays. Tom Pelissero reported, NFL Network reported that it was they were negative, but he still could be. Who knows? We don't know. If you have Mac, obviously, if Mac has to miss a game, it's not the end of the world. It's not great because you really don't want to start the season 0-2. What happens here if Mac is out for a stretch? If he were hurt? What do you do if you're the Patriots? You stick it out with Hoyer, or do you call up San Fran and say, hey guys, and then I don't know how willing they'd be to part with Jimmy G after watching Trey Lance today, but do you start looking for help, or do you just try to hold the line?
If he's out for the season, I start looking for help.
Not season, but let's say you think he's got to go short-term IR or something like that.
I wouldn't go to Jimmy G. I'd go to somebody else. I just think there's too many issues with Garoppolo here, and just with.
I'm not saying he's the answer either.
If you go to Garoppolo, you're going to be in the exact same spot in probably 3 weeks, right? I don't know. Like maybe you go look. I don't know who's. I'd go look at who's. I'd go look at who's on practice squads. Yeah, I don't know.
Skylar Thompson from Miami had a pretty good preseason.
I think you.
Well, that's the thing. It's not there. Actually, at that point, you just stick it out with Hoyer.
The more I think about it, no, you go with Zappy.
Zappy.
Because one of two things is going to happen. He's going to suck. You don't rush Mac back. You get a high draft pick. Or he's going to be good. And all of a sudden, you have a valuable commodity. I'd go with Zappy.
It's not going to happen. Bill would never do that.
Happen. Yeah, no.
But I like to think, Alex, I agree 100%. I would absolutely do the same thing. I just don't think Bill does that.
They didn't look to upgrade in 08. And that was a team that could win a Super Bowl. And they didn't look to upgrade in 08. They rolled with Matt Castle, who was in a contract year, who was a movable asset.
Yeah.
I would argue the precedent suggests that, and they're not going to get anything for Hoyer if he plays.
Okay, Councilman. Okay, Mr.
I'm just
Attorney. Saying. The precedent states. No, I get the point. I just think at this point in Bill's career, I don't think he can risk a 2-15. You know what I mean? Like, I don't.
But he can also sit on the fact that Mac was hurt all season, and then he has another excuse. So
Bill knows there's smoke out there right now, and I know he says he doesn't care, but he's aware. I don't think he
cares. We all know.
I don't think he can eat, a rebuild and look at the glasses half full that we get a draft pick and I get this guy some reps and see if he can actually play, which I don't think he can. I mean, do you think he can? I know you're a Zappy guy, Alex.
Like, can he beat Detroit?
He loves you some Zappy.
Can he beat Detroit?
No, Chicago? Can he beat out Mac Jones in a quarterback competition?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No. Can he beat Detroit?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Assuming Kendrick Bourne plays, yeah. Because he's accurate.
Okay.
I guess.
Okay, maybe.
Hopefully we don't have to cross that bridge, and we'll cross it when we get there.
We'll see what happens. Guys, any final thoughts here before we wrap it up? Again, Patriots lose 20-7. Mac Jones hurts his back. Kendrick Bourne doesn't play and then plays one play and then stops playing again and has no idea why. Patriots turn the ball over 3 times. Blah, 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 blah. Not a lot of good coming out of today. Alex, you did make a good point. Your defense gives up 13 points. That's usually good enough to win. Any final thoughts here before we wrap it, guys?
Something has to change. If nothing ever changes, then we're going to have this conversation for 18 straight weeks.
That's the worst. It's like the first 45 games of the Celtics season. I don't want to do 15 of these shows.
Yeah. Something's got to change, and we got to wait and see what Mac's back is first, and then we go from there. But yeah.
I'd make my final point kind of in the same vein, but I mean, it's 2 years of this. It's everything that was a hallmark for 20 years is suddenly their biggest issue. Situational football, starting strong, not turning the football over,
precision,
penalties, timeouts. Yeah. Everything that they hung their hat on, everything that we were told was the Patriot way and was the reason that they were getting over these other teams.
And everything we gave Bill credit for. Sorry to cut you off. That's everything we gave Bill credit for.
That's exactly the point. That's exactly the point. And it's not like they suddenly don't care about it or anything. They just can't do it. So that's and this goes back to 2020. So it's nothing new. And I can sit here and say, well, it's uncharacteristic, so you think it'll change. But I think after saying that for 2 years, it's characteristic now, and you have to wonder if it would change.
My final thought, I actually, I don't love a lot about today, but I actually thought in my nightmare scenario, it could have gone a good bit worse. And that the worst case scenario would have been that the defense got lit up too. And Miami was running free all game and Tua and Waddle just went for 200 each and everything looked hideous. So that was my worst case scenario, is that they looked bad on both sides of the ball, got their doors blown off. They weren't. It could be a bit of a slog, but there's reason to believe that there's going to be some competitive games ahead. And if you just clean it up a little, again, the problem here is you're used to different things in New England. I think the ceiling is relatively low for this team, but there's no reason that they can't turn it around and remain competitive, particularly early part of the season here where they do have a bit of a favorable schedule. Real quick, Athletic Greens, go get some. It's a terrific supplement. 75 vitamins and supplements all in one here. Great for your health, mental clarity, digestion, immune system. athleticgreens.com/garden. Free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs. Go get some. Once again, Patriots lose. I want to thank Alex Barth from 98.5 The Sports Hub. Go check his stuff out on our website, on his website, 98.5 Sports Hub. He's obviously writing a ton about this game, and we'll have podcasts and all sorts of things coming up here. We'll also have Patriots Beat. When are you guys doing that? Tuesday?
Probably. Yeah.
Tuesday. My lights went out, so the lights are going out on this show. We will see. And Mike Kadlick, of course, writer for CLNSmedia.com, covering the Patriots. Ryan Spagnoli was here as well. He is gone, but he and Alex will be back in a couple of days with Patriots Beat, so make sure you check it out.